I'm going to cheer you up after Jeff Sachs. I mean, I was also feeling a little bit demoralized and depressed hearing about all the problems of the world. And this is quite common in even in America. There's a lot of pessimism, especially in academia. One famous academic is Robert Gordon, who basically preaches about how the world is coming to an end. We also have Tyler Cohen, and a bunch of other academics, economists who have documented that innovation has peaked, that the world has run out of ideas, and doom and gloom. This is what we see all over the world, pessimism about what's happening. And there's a reason for that, because when we were growing up, we were optimistic. I know that I used to dream about flying cars, Star Trek tricorders, replicators, robots, all of these amazing things we thought we would have when we grew up. And what did we get? I mean, look at that. I mean, crumbling highways, infrastructure, old jets, and even the internet that we regard is pathetically slow. So this is why there's so much pessimism, that it looks like the world is coming to an end. The question is, could the pessimist be right? Could it indeed be that innovation has peaked and that the world is doomed, that if we don't agree on climate change, then we're going to be in serious trouble, because the likelihood of governments coming together and doing something to save the world is zero. I don't care how optimistic Jeff Sachs is. I don't see governments being able to get their act together and save the world. What I see happening is entrepreneurs doing it. And I'm going to tell you why I believe they're going to do it, why I believe there's reason for optimism. Let's start off with innovation itself. If you look at the last thousands of years of innovation, it took a long time to get from agriculture to pottery to the plow and the water engine, and then boom, over 200 years we've had major innovation after major innovation after major innovation. This is how technology is advancing. This is the difference between the linear thinkers who you normally hear from and the exponential thinkers, because technology is advancing exponentially. This is the difference between linear and exponential. If I ask you to tell me how far 30 steps is, all of us can take a rough guess. 30 steps is roughly 30 meters. We can figure that out because human beings think linearly. Our brains are linear. If I ask you what's 30 exponential steps, I doubt anyone in the audience will understand what 30 exponential steps is. It's 1 billion meters. 1 billion meters in simple English is 26 times around the planet. That is how technology is advancing, not linearly, exponentially. We have seen our computers advance. What you carry in your pockets, this is more powerful than all of the computers that existed on the planet the day I was born. This is a supercomputer. This is more powerful. In fact, it's something like 40 times more powerful than the early Cray supercomputers were. You remember those supercomputers that America had, which could not be exported, that gave it such an advantage? This is many times more powerful than that. It sits there waiting for you to check email. At the rate at which computing is advancing, here's what's going to happen. This is by Ray Kurzweil, the greatest futurist of our time. He computed what you get for $1,000 in your computers, in your devices. As of 2010, for $1,000, you get the computing power of a mouse brain. At the rate at which technology is advancing, by 2023, you get the computing power of a human being. By 2050, if Moore's law holds up, you get the computing power of all of humanity combined for $1,000. This is not funny. This is serious stuff. I mean, there are debates in academia about whether Moore's law will hold up until 2050. I have not heard anyone dispute whether Moore's law will hold up until 2023, which means that in your pocket, you're going to have a device which has the same computing power as your brain. And you know the advantage that your device has? It's networked to other devices. It doesn't talk in slow motion like we do. It talks at gigabit speeds. It shares knowledge. It has access to the cloud where it can store unlimited amounts of information. We don't. This is how technology is advancing. And I have news for you. It's not just computing. It is everything that computing touches, including artificial intelligence, medicine, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, nanotechnology, and so on and so on and so on. This is how technology is advancing, and this is why we're seeing such dramatic change happening. Take our telephone. I don't know if you realize that your telephone is now a medical device. Already on your telephone, you have more access to more knowledge than leading scientists had, leading physicians had, as recently as 15 years ago. You have an encyclopedia of knowledge which was unimaginable. When we were young, when I was young, I was from a middle-class family. We could not afford the Encyclopedia Britannica. So I used to have to go to the library, and I envied my friends who had an Encyclopedia Britannica, because that was what rich people had. I don't know what it was like in Norway, but where I lived, the Encyclopedia Britannica was really expensive. It was the object of luxury. You know, you can download an app called the Encyclopedia Britannica, and people don't even bother to do it because it's garbage, it's out of date. It's irrelevant. You have access to the latest medical knowledge, the latest breakthroughs, the latest scientific knowledge, as it happens, just like that on your phones. Free. You can also now buy add-ons for your phone which may turn into a glucose meter. You can now buy add-ons which turn into a cardiologist, which do EKG scans of your body. In fact, this is one of hundreds of devices that are commercially available right now, the quantified self movement. Apple announced the health kit recently. It's going to be releasing the Apple Watch in a few weeks. Well, guess what? Apple became a healthcare company. My next Wall Street Journal article is going to talk about the transformation of medicine, how the technology industry has now stepped into healthcare, and how it's going to cause major disruption. You should have our friends at Skagen forward it to you, because it's exactly what I'm talking about in the Wall Street Journal next. And soon we'll also have devices that go into our body and monitor our internals, just like you monitor your externals. I don't know if you saw a movie called Fantastic Voyage or not, or whether it came to Norway, but it was about how they shrunk these human beings, put them inside a capsule, and went inside the body. Now forget the human beings, the capsules already exist. And soon we will have sensors within our bodies that detect our body's functioning, which upload to our smartphones, which upload to the cloud. Medicine is becoming digital. Already, electronic medical records, it used to be a few years ago that when you went to a doctor, the doctor took handwritten notes, that the doctor couldn't even read those notes. The doctor pretended to be writing something down so you would feel important. Neither he nor she could understand what was written down there. We're moving to electronic medical records globally. And then there are all these sensor data we're going to be gathering. And then telemedicine is becoming a big deal, because now you can see a doctor on demand and pay by the minute. The doctor can be anywhere in the world, and you have access to a doctor immediately when you need the doctor. And the doctor will have access to your sensor data, so the doctor doesn't need to physically see you. You can now get your electrocardiograph, you can get your blood pressure readings done via devices in the home. And Google bought Nest for $3.2 billion. Why do you think Google spent $3.2 billion on a stupid thermostat? Because it wanted to buy a platform for gathering all the data. So soon we will have all these data being uploaded to the cloud, and medicine has become digital. And we will have AI-based physicians which monitor us 24/7. With all this data, we need computers to analyze them. Doctors can't keep up with all this information anymore. So we will have AI-based physicians that monitor us and tell us how we're doing. Already IBM Watson, that defeated Jeopardy players, has learned oncology. It can diagnose cancer better than human beings can. It is learning every other field of medicine right now. And IBM, it has lots of competition. Google will outdo IBM, as will Microsoft, as will other tech companies. There's a race on to build the AI physicians. Soon we'll also have robotic surgeons. In fact, Intuitive Surgical, which is based in Silicon Valley, markets this device where the surgeon is here, the surgery is happening here. Now the question is, why can't the surgeon be in Norway and the surgery be happening in California? This is also becoming possible. We'll have robotic surgeons. And that's nothing compared to the real revolution that's happening, which is genomics. About 12 years ago, 14 years ago, there was a race between the US government and Craig Venter to sequence the human genome. Craig Venter won. The governments combined spent $2.75 billion. Venter took those data and spent $100 million and sequenced the human genome. $100 million is what he spent. It was a big deal, front page news worldwide. Guess what it costs today? $1,000 to do a complete human genome sequence. At the rate at which it's progressing, within about 5 years, it will cost less to do a human genome sequence than to buy a cup of coffee. That's how it's progressing. And the significance of this is that it means we become software, that the bits and the bytes that make us up have been decoded, have been deciphered. We can now start analyzing ourselves, the data that we're made of, using software. This is the revolution that's in progress right now. We're headed into an era of genomic medicine, which means that we now analyze data and start prescribing based on the genome. So today, it's one size fits all. You get sick, and most likely the doctor will prescribe you antibiotics. But no two people are exactly the same. Even when you have twins, twins have differences, right? Our genomes are different. Why do we get the same medicine? Because we haven't had the information to know what the differences between human beings are. Well, today we have it. And today, entrepreneurs are analyzing these data and building new types of systems which are based on the genome. Soon, but when I say soon, I mean in the next 10 to 15 years. Nothing I'm talking about is beyond the 2020s. Okay? In this whole presentation, I'm not getting into science fiction. I'm talking about things that are happening right now. We will now have data from our genome. We'll have microbiome information. We'll have a medical history and data about our lifestyle and environments, because this same device, which is a supercomputer, is monitoring everything we do. It monitors how active we are, where we go, our lifestyle, our habits are all being recorded right now. Imagine putting all of these together and being able to prescribe personal medications on that. This is what's next. And soon we'll have printed organs and bionic enhancements. Remember $6 Million Man? I don't know if that came to Norway or not, but it was one of my favorite shows, Steve Austin. Steve Austin will be a reality in the 2020s, late 2020s. And the $6 Million Man won't cost $6 million. He or she will cost $6,000 or 6,000 euros. Everything is more expensive here. We'll have antivirus for the body. You go to the bathroom and your screen will light up and tell you that, look, if you continue pigging out the way you did last night, here's how you're going to look. You'll get your health readouts immediately based on the sensors that you saw there. But here's what my nightmare is. That you have that second piece of pie and you get an SMS saying, stop, 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 abort, abort, abort. Because our devices will be keeping track of everything we're doing. And then look at the advances in sensors. If you recall the old sensors we had, the thermometers, the microphones, these are obsolete now. Here's what's happening. Take the digital camera. In 1976 came out the first, that was the days of ABBA, I believe, Dancing Queen and so on, right? That's when we had the first digital camera. It weighed 4 pounds, cost $10,000, and was a whopping 0.01 megapixels. What we have today is a billion times better. And a 10 megapixel camera actually costs about $2 now. A billion times better. And remember the ICBM units that were in the American nuclear missiles? They were proprietary trade secrets, America's defense secrets and so on. They used to weigh hundreds of pounds and they cost millions of dollars. Today, you have tiny little chips in your iPhone, in your smartphone that are more powerful than those ICBMs were. And they cost hardly $1. GPS, the first GPS came out in 1981, the first commercial GPS. It weighed 53 pounds and it cost $120,000. Today, you have a little tiny chip in your smartphone, which is a GPS. And I have multiple apps on my phone which tell me where to go, which talk to me and guide me wherever I want to go, anywhere in the world. Costs practically zero. A billion times better between ABBA and today. In fact, this is what your smartphone looks like. Don't take your smartphone apart, but if you did, you would see sensors in there that would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars and weighed 30, 40, 50 pounds just a few years ago. We carry these in our pockets, and we don't even realize the power we're carrying in our pockets. And then look at robots. I mean, like I said, when I was young, I used to dream about Astro Boy was my favorite robot. Japanese, it was a Japanese cartoon, but I used to dream about Astro Boy. And then R2-D2. All these robots we used to dream about. And what did we get? We got stupid Roomba. what happened here? Why did we not get the robots we dreamed about when we were young? I mean, what went wrong? The reason is because the computing power required to do voice recognition, face recognition, the sensors required to detect what was around you would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and required a room as big as where we are just to do simple analysis. And guess what? You have that in your pocket right now. So rosy R2D2 have become possible. So have industrial and agriculture robots. They cost practically nothing. Robots that can do what human beings can do. In fact, as of this year, it's cheaper to manufacture in the US and Europe than in China because of robotics. This is what robots can do right now. These are real robots. And Google is buying up all the major robotics companies. I wonder why. And guess who's building robots? Children are. You people don't even know what robots are, but children are going to build. One of your nieces or nephews is likely going to build Rosie for you, build the robots that we've been dreaming about. This is how it's advancing. They're becoming a companion. Yes, that will be a multi-billion-dollar industry. Clerks, pharmacists, surgeons, chauffeurs. In Silicon Valley, where I live, we have self-driving cars driving around. I just ordered my Model D Tesla, which has, I already have a Tesla, but I ordered the new one, which I'm taking delivery of next month, because it has a semi-robotic assistant to help to drive on the highways. It will take over on the highway and read road signs and drive by itself. So you should also upgrade your Tesla, because the next one is going to be amazing, and they're going to keep adding features to it until it becomes a self-driving car. So they're going to creep up on you without you realizing it. Your cars are coming. Your self-driving cars are coming. We will have city after city converting into robotic cars. And in about 15 years or so, we will have debates about whether human beings should be allowed on the roads at all, because they crash into each other. They need police to monitor them. They need traffic lights. I mean, they rush into traffic jams. These idiotic human beings, how can we trust them to be on the roads? They should be in amusement parks, not on roads. And then drones to do delivery. Jeff was making light of drones, but one of the companies that I've been mentoring is building drones for Africa, for sub-Saharan Africa, to deliver medical supplies there. They're now testing their technology in Bhutan. In places where there are no roads, drones can take care of your deliveries. As well, they can take care of delivering Starbucks to you in the morning at your home here. Delivering pizza. Right now, you order pizza, you have a 2-ton truck coming to deliver that or your mail, with a human being on it. Why do we need all this thing when all you have is a little, pizza or a cup of coffee that you want? Drones can do that job much better. Look at these robots. Can you believe those are robots? And then 3D printing. It used to be that when we did printing, we worried about complexity. We used to worry about typesetting. Remember typesetting? Right. When is the last time we worried about typesetting? You go onto your laptop, you slap together some graphics, fonts, and hit the print key, and out it comes. Imagine doing that in 3 dimensions. This is what's possible right now. That ring is 3D printed. Almost anything you can imagine, anything you can conceive, you can print right now. And what about computing, which is making all this happen? Data is growing exponentially, roughly 60% a year. We have more data being created every few minutes than existed on the entire planet until about 2000 or so. This is the trend on data. So much data, we don't know what to do with it. Within an internet minute, you have hundreds of hours of videos, just explosion of information happening like was unconceivable before. Storage is becoming practically free and moving to the cloud. A terabyte used to be a big deal before. A terabyte costs about $25 now. New user interfaces. Soon we will have virtual reality headsets. We'll have Google Glass types of devices that display screens for us. We'll be talking to our computers, and we'll be having gestures to command what needs to be done. We will have embedded retinas. Instead of having glasses, it'll just be embedded in our retinas. So you have information coming at you as you need it. You can just close your eyes and start watching holographic movies immediately. You don't need a screen anymore. Internet of Things, every device everywhere being connected. I have no idea what your toaster will say to your toothbrush, but they'll be talking about you. Now, what does this mean? I mean, in terms of solving the grand challenges of humanity, there are a lot of problems in the world: poverty, hunger. Hundreds of millions of children are not going to get educated. Clean water, more people die from bad water than any other disease in the world. There are major, major problems to solve. And as Jeff was talking about, we also have this issue of climate change. There's a lot of reason to worry. I mean, there's a lot of despair in the world. Population has been increasing. So there's a lot of reason for pessimism. But, the changes are happening. Take energy as an example. What people don't understand is that the rate at which technology is advancing, take solar. We also have geothermal, we have hydro, we have many types of advances happening in energy. But take solar, which America has become negative about. At the rate at which solar is advancing, within 16 years from now, we will be able to generate 100% of the Earth's needs from solar energy, and the solar energy will cost a hundredth of what it does today. In other words, we will have almost unlimited free energy within 15 to 20 years from now. This is happening without any more government support, any more incentives. People don't believe this. If you look at the data, every which way you look at it, we're on this exponential path. So if the fracking has decimated the price of oil. It might fluctuate over the next 5 years or so, but forget it. The days of oil are over. The next step is going to be clean energy is going to start replacing oil and fossil fuels en masse over the next 10 to 15 years. It's a winning battle, and it's happening without any more government support or subsidies. Germany was a major player in solar energy. Now it's an autopilot. Every 18 months, you're seeing the installations double. As installations double, you're seeing a reduction of price of 20%. At the same time, storage is increasing in capacity and price performance by about 10% a year. Add it all together, within 15 to 20 years, 100% clean energy. This is transformative for the world. And then water. We talk about shortages of water. We talk about World War III breaking out over water. We talk about infectious, it's all majority, 88% of the infectious diseases in the world being caused by the waterborne viruses. Why? What is it? If you were an alien, an extraterrestrial looking at this planet, you would think these human beings are crazy. They're talking about water shortages. All you see is water. 71% of the Earth's surface is water. Yet we talk about shortages. What's wrong with us? We went to school. We learned how to clean water. All you do is you boil it, capture the condensation, and you have 100% pure, clean water. The problem is energy. The energy required to boil the water. What happens when energy becomes free? And energy is becoming free. Whether you believe it or not, energy is becoming free. Look at every data point, it is becoming free. So 15 to 20 years from now, we have unlimited clean water. But in 15 to 20 years, you'll have 10, 20 million more people die. You'll have hundreds of million people get sick. There are solutions to that. There are two technologies I've been personally involved with which could solve the world's infectious disease water problem today. One of them is this company in Chile, which I've been mentoring, and which I personally invested in to get them out of this.
Contaminated water
Watch
and
this.
Then feeding it into a chamber, where a quick change in pressure and exposure to an electrical field converts it into a plasma, a state of matter similar to gas. In a plasma state, the water is ionized, killing 100% of the bacteria and microbes it carried. According to Alfredo Zalesi, a scientist at the center, the system can purify 35 liters of water in just 5 minutes, using the same amount of energy that it takes to run a light bulb.
This is a company that I've been mentoring, and I got my friends to invest in it. Now, 2 weeks ago, the president of Chile rolled out the first units into a village in Chile. That project has gone really well. We expect to take this worldwide over the next 2 or 3 years. By the time we're done, these units will cost about $1,000 or so for an entire village having clean water, basically converting it into a state of plasma back into water. This technology was built by a team of 12 people in Chile, entrepreneurs doing what no government has been able to do before. Billions of dollars of efforts by governments to try to solve the world's water crisis. A tiny little company in Chile could fix that problem with 12 people. This is what's become possible. And then education. India, for example, has 200 million children to educate. Teachers don't even show up to work over there in many of these villages. There's no hope for fixing the education system in the developing world. The solution here is tablets, is now using AI tutors and educating them using technology. In fact, now, today, you can buy tablets for $40 in India, which are like the early versions of the iPhones, the iPads. Here's an experiment I did in Silicon Valley. You know, you talk about poverty. Silicon Valley is Palo Alto. It's what it's known for. Houses over there, what are called teardowns, cost $3 million. Across the street from there, across the highway, is East Palo Alto. Despair, poverty. It could be a third world country. This is in Silicon Valley. It's disgusting. You have tens of thousands of children over there who don't get education, who don't have technology. In Silicon Valley. I was so moved by it that I decided to do an experiment. I took the tablets from India. I got my friends in Silicon Valley, Mitch Kapor, the founder of Lotus 123, Silicon Valley Bank. We did an experiment. We took tablets from India, we brought them to Silicon Valley, and we did hackathons over 2 weekends. 250 children, mostly black and Latino children, on welfare. We had them use the tablets, and we taught them how to code. We had volunteers from tech companies teach them how to code. Within a weekend, all of them, 100% of them said that they now wanted to be in the technology economy. Their lives were transformed by giving them cheap tablets from India. This is in Silicon Valley. So now the cost of tablets is dropping. Also, every year it's dropping 20, 30, 40%. In the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to have a revolution happening in the developing world with billions of people now getting smartphones which are internet connected. 3 billion people will be coming online. You're talking about the ability to transform the world using technology. And then 3D printing meat. This is also becoming possible, synthetically producing meat. Already there are several companies who have demonstrated the ability to synthetically produce meat. The majority of greenhouse gases aren't caused by automobiles, by the way. We talk about these big packs to sustain the environment. The majority of greenhouse gases are caused by animals. It's inhuman the way we slaughter animals. What would happen if we didn't have to slaughter animals anymore? If we could simply 3D print the meat? Within 5 years, it will become feasible. There are 2 companies that I know who believe that within 5 years, they'll be able to produce meat for the same cost as killing animals. Within 10 years, it'll cost a tenth as much to synthetically produce meat. The same quality of meat, the same cut of meat, the same type of meat, except it's synthetically produced. Vegetarian meat is becoming possible. Vertical farms. There are some experiments happening in Europe here. In Boston, there's work going on in it. 6% of Singapore's produce right now is produced in vertical farms. Now, what's holding us back from having these vertical farms? The cost of energy, right? Because the advantage in vertical farms is that you don't have to have pesticides because you can have glass-sealed buildings, so you don't have to spray them with chemicals to keep them the crops safe. With energy prices dropping, with clean water, we will be able to produce all the food we want. There's no limit to the population on this planet. I mean, this thing about 9 billion people being a lot, who says? If you look at Europe even, most of the land is wasted. And if we don't have to kill animals, we get back more than half of the land that's already there. This planet could probably have 100 billion people. But the fact is they won't need to, because as people start getting educated, as they start getting developed, populations start dropping. This is what's happening in Europe. It's happening in Japan. In the United States, if it wasn't for immigration, the population growth would be negative. And this is also happening in Vietnam now, for example. Someone was telling me last night that populations start stabilizing and then dropping. We're not headed into an era of overpopulation. We're headed into an era of abundance when we have everything we need, all the food we can possibly imagine, and we can sustain far more people on this planet. Self-driving cars can take us as far as we want, no speed limits, so we could be going outside cities. We're not dependent on cities anymore. And the beauty of it is that innovation is globalized. It's not just happening in America or in Europe. It used to be that the research labs in Norway, the research labs in Palo Alto were driving innovation. That is no longer the case. For example, this one really surprised me. I went to New Delhi last year, and I met this one company which was run by a scientist, by a doctor who was an American, an Indian doctor working in Arizona, who was really frustrated with the medical establishment over there, that he was trying to get a grant to build a medical device. What he noticed was that all this expensive equipment that he used in the hospital over there, Arizona State University, all of it was unduly complex. The sensors were very cheap, and they had very expensive equipment producing difficult readouts. He says, why don't I just build one platform and have all these sensors adding on to this one device? He thought he could do it very cheaply. He couldn't get any support or funding to do it in the United States. He went back to India. He went back to New Delhi. $10,000, he was able to build a prototype. This is 3 years ago. And then he actually put together a team of engineers. Now there are 2.5 million people in the state of Jammu and Kashmir who are using his technology. Basically, an $800 device that does 33 different medical tests. Here are the tests. Everything from urine analysis to testing for dengue, malaria, blood pressure. Almost any common test can be done with this $800 device. A month ago, he had it certified by the European equivalent of the FDA. I don't know what it's called over here, but they certified it. The accuracy is as high as standard medical equipment. This he expects to be able to produce for $200. He emailed me this morning saying that he just got another 100 tests done. He's built another mini testers, which can do another 100 types of tests. So you're talking about a device which will cost a few $100s that can do what millions of dollars worth of equipment in your most expensive hospitals can do, being built by a doctor in India. So it's no longer the West or the research labs or governments that have a monopoly on innovation. Anyone can do it anywhere now. Technology is going to cause disruptions in every industry you can think of. Everywhere I look, I see disruption. For example, my prediction is that within a decade, China's manufacturing industry is toast. India's call center industry is toast. Already with robotic manufacturing, you don't need human beings anymore. The cost of manufacturing is equal now with robots to cheap labor in China. And robots work 24/7. They don't commit suicide. They don't complain. They don't join labor unions. They don't go on strike. But they will go on strike in the 2020s because the 3D printers are going to take their jobs away. We will be able to 3D print most goods in the 2020 timeframe. This is how transformative manufacturing is, how much manufacturing is going to transform. Finance, this hits home over here. Already you're seeing disruptions happening to US banking with these card readers and with Square types of devices. This is just the beginning. You're going to have cashless transactions becoming a norm worldwide. Bitcoin is creating lots of controversy. I think Bitcoin will go away. It will be replaced by other digital currencies. We're going to be in an era of biometric IDs and digital currencies. Already, about a third of Kenya's GDP is processed on M-Pesa. One of the most backward countries in the world has one of the most advanced banking systems in the world because it's done via mobile phones and SMSs. India has the most advanced biometric ID system in the world. About 700 million people have been ID'd, biometric IDs. They've been given identities using the Aadhaar system. Most backward countries are the furthest ahead in these advancing technologies. And then there's the crowd. We don't need banks anymore. We can get loans from the crowd now. In fact, the crowd can be used for much more than that. One of the things which I've written about extensively is the lack of women in technology, the fact that it isn't just Saudi Arabia where the women are left out, it's also Silicon Valley. You go there, it's disgusting. Even Norway, look at the boards of companies over here, look at the executive teams of companies over here, all male. Is it that women aren't qualified? No way. When women are on boards, when women are in development teams, you get better performance, better economic performance, you get better technologies being produced. I've researched this extensively, and I wrote a book about it. The problem was, so I had done a lot of research, but the problem was I'm a guy. How could I tell women how to solve their problems? So what I did was I used a crowd. I crowdfunded my project. I needed $40,000. I got $96,000 to do the book. I wanted 30 or 40 women. I had 500 women helping me do a book. Within 6 weeks, I was able to do years of research by harnessing a crowd. Now, all the money from the book is going to a fund for women. So we're going to make hundreds of thousands of dollars and fund women's ventures with it. But the fact is that I was able to use a crowd to gather knowledge and to do something which traditionally would take years of research, if it could be done at all, which is to create a book. And in fact, I encourage you to read my book, Innovating Women. You can order it from Amazon or download it on Kindle. But this was crowd created. This is what's become possible. And then medicine. In the USA, there's a lot of pessimism about Obamacare back up to the country. It's bizarre that a system which can now provide insurance to everyone. You have the extreme right wing going crazy about it, saying we can't insure people. God forbid they fall sick. I mean, it's just ridiculous the battles that are being fought there. When at the same time, the solution here is to reduce the cost of medicine. How do you do that? Technology is doing that already. The majority of the money we spend on medicine is spent on end-of-life care, on curing disease. It's not a healthcare system. It's a sick care system that we have in the USA and in Europe. What happens if we can start preventing disease? What happens if our cell phones advise us on our lifestyle habits, and when we have AI-based physicians? The cost will drop dramatically. We're talking about major disruption which is going to happen to the medical industry over the next 5 years or so. Next 5 years, we're going to see major transformation in the medical industry. Communications. We saw the transformation from landlines to cell phones and now Wi-Fi. When I traveled to Europe, when I used to come to Europe, it would cost me hundreds of dollars in long-distance bills. Now I just go on to Wi-Fi and free calls. The fact is that we went from landline to cell to data, and now it's going to Wi-Fi. And with Google Loon and with these advancing projects that are happening, we won't even need the cell industry anymore. The telecom industry is going to be disrupted like never before, and so will cable and entertainment be disrupted the same way. Mobile phones are merging with tablets. They're reaching billions. I mean, we're going to now have everyone now connected on smartphones and tablets. Now, here's what's happened in Africa. What used to be an object of luxury has become a basic necessity. This is how the world is changing. The message I'm going to leave you with, we have 5 or 10 minutes for Q&A after this. The message I'm going to leave you with is that this is the most innovative period in human history, when entrepreneurs can do what only governments could do before, which is to solve humanity's grand challenges. We're going to see more disruption happening over the next decade than we've ever imagined before. You're going to see industry after industry being wiped out. You're going to see new industries coming out of nowhere, which we didn't even imagine before. I don't know, whether Airbnb and Uber are a big deal here in Norway or not, but in many countries, they're disrupting like you can never imagine. These are a bunch of spoiled brat kids in Silicon Valley coming up with apps that are disrupting major industries, which are causing governments to take action. But this is the type of innovation we're going to see coming out of the technology industry more and more, because everything is becoming a technology right now. You're having industry after industry after industry being disrupted, becoming technology industries. Healthcare has become a technology industry. You're going to have kids now building these robots. You're going to have kids now building apps which transform industries. $1 trillion industries coming out of nowhere. $1 billion IPOs coming out of nowhere. Within 2 or 3 years, you've never heard about it. Suddenly, you have something which being worth $1 billion. This is the world we're in right now. Change like we've never imagined before. It's good and bad. The good is that if we harness it in the right way, we can solve the grand challenges of humanity. We can make the world a better place. Thank you, everyone.
I would say it's certainly a different view than the first speaker.
Yes.
I would.
I wish he was here to hear me.
Yeah, I would define it as a, what would you say, exponential optimist. But in this world you have now laid out in front of us, this bright future, we are not going to drive cars. We don't need the animal. What will actually be the role of the humans?
Well, Europe will have its way. I mean, here you want shorter and shorter work weeks, right?
Yeah.
You went from 40-hour work weeks to 35-hour work weeks. 28-hour work weeks is what they want in France. Well, how about 10-hour work weeks? And how about having social welfare so everyone gets a basic minimum wage? And you only work if you want to work. I mean, why do we have to work? It used to be that we took for granted that we had to work in factories. That's how it used to be 100 years ago. It was very manual labor. Okay, we used to have to work on farms. Now we do knowledge work. What happens if we had computers doing the knowledge work for us and we could do the creative arts? We could focus on science and uplifting humanity. These are the type of things which become possible. We will have many debates, social unrest, because you will have people being unemployed who are very unhappy with it and who try to stop technology. But you can't stop technology, you can't stop progress anymore because it's happening everywhere now. It's not just one government trying to stop it, it's happening globally at an exponential pace.
So But in your examples, it's young people, it's our nieces and nephews, it's still people behind these innovations. But will eventually the robots take over the innovation too?
Now I said everything I'm talking about is in the 2020s. In the 2030s, 2040s, it becomes scary.
Yeah.
In fact, this is my optimistic talk. I want to leave you on a high. I could have done another talk over here which would have terrified you. Because I also worry. I mean, Elon Musk talked about unleashing the demons. Stephen Hawking just talked about the end of mankind with AI, for example. I don't think that it's that extreme, but frankly, I begin to worry about it. I'm actually, this year, I've shifted gears. For the last 2 or 3 years, I've been studying advancing technologies. I've been studying women in tech and so on. Now I'm shifting gears. I'm now focusing on the dark side of technology, the legal and ethical issues, the problems we're creating. I'm going to be writing a book about that because I've begun to worry a lot about the mess that we're creating, about the disruption that's going to happen. Disruption is going to happen in the next 5 or 10 years in a big way. That is a business book which I'm going to do. But more than that, I'm more worried about the nightmares we're going to create. How do we now develop frameworks to manage all this? We have time. We have at least 15 or 20 years before we have to worry about those things. That's next decade's debate. But we have to start thinking about these things.
So for now, we are going to be optimists.
For now, it's wonderful. The next 15 to 20 years...
Now and then until like after lunch, or for how long can we be optimists?
For the next 15 to 20 years, it's sunshine.
Okay, good. That's good. That sounds like a lot of how we look upon things here in Norway. But I'm going to give you some more questions.
Sure.
For now, it's good. We have the oil money for now.
I would start saving it because the oil money won't last.
No. But can we overcome the challenge of antibiotics-resistant bacteria?
Yes, because we're going to develop nanobots, literally, that can kill bacteria in different ways. We're still thinking in the old way. You know, these aspirins and these medicines we created were based on not understanding how the genome worked, not understanding how the body physically worked. We will develop radically new ways of curing disease. We'll actually start eliminating disease by itself. This is what's becoming possible. See, when you think linearly, when you think about the past and the way it was 50 years ago, you say, well, 50 years ago, this was this was this is what's going to happen. But we're not in linear mode anymore. It's exponential. I mean, even Jeff Sachs, who was quite pessimistic by my definition, the slides that he had were all exponential.
You had the same slides,
yeah.
the same graphs.
But he's not looking at the technology advances. He's still looking at the problems as being linear, the solutions being linear, whereas everything is exponential. I see exponential because I'm seeing it happening. I'm in the midst of, when I'm in Silicon Valley, I'm advising companies like this water technology. I'm advising the Chilean government on innovation policy. I went there, I saw this technology. I decided to commercialize it. I got my friends. I invested my own money in it. I got my friends to invest $250,000 each. We're funding this company. We're taking it global because I saw an opportunity over there. This company in India, they don't need my money. They don't need funding. But the fact is that if they needed help, I would have gone in and helped them commercialize their technology because it will disrupt healthcare in a big way. So I'm seeing this stuff happen. This is what I do. This is why I'm optimistic and at the same time worried.
In Norway, we have so far spent 1 billion Norwegian kroner on an electronic patient journal, and it's not yet finished. Should we leave this to Apple?
I would actually try collaborating with Apple and the tech industry because governments can't do things right. You know, they mess up. If instead of this, if the government had competitions locally for Norwegian entrepreneurs or even Scandinavian entrepreneurs, $10 million prize to the entrepreneurs who can build the best system. You would have had 50 different companies bidding for it, and 1 or 2 or 3 of those companies would have been world-changing. For $50 million, you could have gotten $1 billion worth of innovation, and then you have the solutions and let them now spread the technology, let them make $1 billion and commercialize it. That's a smarter way of doing innovation than government trying to do it, because governments can't innovate. It used to be we're dependent on them, but they take years and it becomes bureaucratic. It's not the right way to do things anymore. You need to have new methods of innovating.
Yeah, nowhere in the world there is a statue of committees.
Yeah, forget it. That's not the way entrepreneurs work. The way entrepreneurs work is that we pick a target, we're going to change the world, we're going to come up with this amazing technology, and we just build it. You know, whatever it takes, we're going to build it. We may fail, but we'll just keep trying over and over and over again. That's the way entrepreneurship works. Those are the people you want innovating. Seriously, if the Norwegian government had offered a $50 million prize and for companies to build the same system, you would have had dozens of startups coming up in Norway, and many of them would have become world-changing billion-dollar companies. Missed opportunity. It could still happen.
It's a mindset change we need.
It's a mindset change. And even now, the government could open source all the code they've created and offer a $10 million prize whoever builds the best systems. Just small amounts of money motivate people, and that's a lot for startups. And they would now be able to change the world. That's the type of thinking you need to have in this country.
This is really mind-blowing, and it will be food for the brain during the lunch. There's also going to be other food outside here now for the next hour or so. And just to let you know, there's going to be the same kind of food on all the tables, so don't stop at the first one. But go out there, think about the bright future, and many thanks to Vivek Wadhva.
I do a lot of writing about this. If you go to wadhwa.com, wadhwa.com, my website, you'll see hundreds of articles I've written about this on different topics. And even the Wall Street Journal article I talked about, I'll probably post it there by this weekend when I get a chance. You'll see it's a future medicine article. So go to wadhwa.com and you can read up about these advances.
Go to wadhwa.com and go to lunch. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sure.